We got one heck of a story here. Get ready for it. Here we go.
Is it just me? Or is it getting crazier out there?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Paranormal Into the Night on the Late Late Horror Show. What is going on? Good to see everybody. I do not know how this story passed me on by, but it is so interesting. And there is a lot going on from the Syfy Channel to things I can't say right now. But I mean, it's just a hell of a story. And I came across this a little while back and I got a hold of Chris and I said, hey, come on the show. And I can't wait for him to start talking about it. And we are going to start from the beginning and go through this. So let me get to everybody in the chat. Hey, Chris, Zardoz, what's going on? Ginger, one girly girl, RTN, Rich Cat Ranch, what's going on? Richard Speaker, Black Roses, Connie Clary, everybody, what's going on? Trogdor is here. Good to see you, Richard. Where you been, man? Make sure you guys give a thumbs up. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, the bell notification, all that good stuff. Also, check out the links below. Talks a little bit about Chris and his story, the C2D1 Haunting, as he's referred to as the Ghost Boy from Geneseo. And it is a very interesting story. So a little later on, if you guys do got questions after we get through the story, there's a lot to get through. Feel free to ask some questions if you do, if you want. But without further ado, let me bring on Chris Dicesare. I said it right. Hey, how you doing, Chris?
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, Dino.
Yeah, no problem, man. And again, everybody, the link is down below underneath the video. It's a link to Amazon. He's still got the book up there, but another book is coming out, right, Chris?
That's right. You know, every 4 or 5 years, you can update what you've done, and we can talk later about the big opportunity I'm about to embark on next year. So, in conjunction with that release of that project, it'll be a new book with some information about that. So, honored by that.
Yeah, without saying anything, and I'm not saying nothing. Yeah, big kind of streaming service is going to be having a kind of a mini series, and you guys will be like, "Whoa, okay." So congrats on that, man.
Thank you.
But let's get to the story. And heck, this was 3 months of living hell for you as an 18-year-old, I do believe, right, Chris?
It's tough because when you're a teenager, you recall this, I'm sure you know everything. You know everything there is to know. You're invincible. You don't break. You know all the answers. And that's, I guess, part of the glory of youth, you know. And you have your own definitions. There's jocks and stoners and geeks and nerds and metalheads, you know. And I
Yeah.
just wanted to, at that point in time, to go to college, explore new music, meet people, get an education, and pursue my dream, that American dream of maybe getting a nice house or maybe, nice career.
Hmm.
I had no idea that years later it would become this tremendously horrifying experience that I'm sharing, and
Yeah.
sometimes you look for a fastball and the curveball comes in, and that's what happened.
Oh yeah, no. Listen, as a young person who's never had any experiences as a child, right? You never had any up until this point, and we'll get to the Ed and Lorraine Warren where it all began. Nothing ever happened before then, right?
It wasn't, I
Or did
was
you
not
just not pay
necessarily
attention?
I wasn't necessarily intrigued by the paranormal. My father was a science teacher, chemistry, biology, physics. He said, there are some things you can't see that are there. For example, Saturn. If you get a telescope, you can see it.
Yeah.
Paramecium, you can't see those, but with a microscope, you can. And there are no ghost goggles. You can't go, hey, it's grandma. So my dad said, the things you can prove, deal with those. Life is hard enough. The things that you really can't prove, just kind of give it some clearance, some guidance away from there, because a lot of people who are con artists out there want to control your money. So I never really watched those movies, read those books, or anything like that. I had zero interest in the paranormal, and I guess that's okay. And I
Oh
like
yeah.
baseball. I like to ice cream. I like to run. I was a nationally ranked marathon runner, which is I can't do that anymore. I get the mailbox. I'm tired, but
Very cool.
it was a nice life back in the 80s. We had the Olympic Games in Los Angeles. We had a president who won 49 states. Talk about like, I don't know, we're a
Yeah.
world and a place at peace. The economy was good. The one negative thing was the beginning of the AIDS epidemic, but at
Yeah.
that point in time, it was maybe 5% of the population, maybe less, that was concerned about that. So for the majority of us, life was pretty good. We shared the same experience with the TV shows we watched. We worked in
Oh yeah.
communities, and I just had no idea that this on the
L-
horizon, storm cloud was growing.
Oh yeah. Listen, the 80s were fantastic. Let me just say that. From TV shows to just being a teenager, the malls, all that good stuff. The 80s were
Yeah,
great. What I was alluding to was even if like you're not interested in a paranormal, it happens to people just like it happened to you. Some kids grow up seeing
right,
dead people or hearing voices, seeing things, connecting to the other side, and don't really realize it until they're a little bit older. But
right.
again, you had no experience like that
Uh,
up until
right.
yeah. So to get to it, I mean, right, really, the beginning of the story is uh, you go to a lecture, right, with Ed and
Yeah,
Lorraine Warren,
right.
and the story kind of begins there. Which this just intrigues me. I'm just like,
Yeah. It,
how? What's the connection there? Did they kind of give off some kind of energy to spur on what eventually happened? Who knows? But go ahead
it,
with the story from there.
Yeah, I have to let your viewers, listeners know that when these things were happening, I didn't understand them. I was just trying to survive day to day. I wasn't a paranormal enthusiast. And the whole concept of Ed and Lorraine Warren, I had no idea who they were.
Yeah.
My friend in the dorm, Erie Hall, one room over in C2D2, his name was Jeff. During our dining hall lunch, he had said to me, "Hey, listen, there are these demonologists coming to the college. They're pretty famous. Want to hear them speak? Names are Ed and Lorraine Warren." And I just knew
Yeah.
Warren County was a county by Albany, New York. I
Yeah.
said, "No, I'm good." He goes, "Well, it's free." Well, geez, if it's free, what harm is there in
You're
that?
in
So
college. Sure, you're going to something free, right?
because it was free, I went, and it would change my life. And if you had pulled me aside as I walked into the auditorium with all those
Mhm.
people and said to me, "What do you expect?" I would have told you I expect to walk out. I'm just going to be there a few minutes and go, because the idea of trying to present concepts about ghosts and spirits to me was just antithetical to what in my worldview, which is very limited. There was Casper and
Yeah.
Jesus, and those are the two ghosts I was familiar with, and nothing in between. So they're about to change my mind and rock my world, and I just didn't know
Oh
it
yeah.
yet.
Oh yeah. No, Ed and Lorraine Warren. I mean, geez. I mean, we all know the history there, and you go into there and you
Yeah.
listen to them speak, and I don't know if the speech, what they were talking about, hit you hard, or was it just something, and then you went up there, and then what happened? I mean, how
Well,
how did the actual
yeah.
lecture go?
The actual lecture was interesting, much like Star Trek, Star Wars, Game of Thrones. I didn't think it was real, but it was pretty presented so well. They had these things they called EVPs, which are these strange sounds. They had these still slides of uh, ghosts on staircases and in cars and things. And I have to
Yeah.
tell you that it was very entertaining. And the one thing I took from that, though, was Lorraine Warren.
Yeah.
She was very regal. I mean, her back was straight, her hair was up. She was, when she spoke, you got the feeling that she meant what she said. Whether or not I believed it or not, she seemed to believe it. And that's always good when you're speaking to someone, that they believe what they're saying. And she
Yeah.
kept on saying during this hour and change presentation, like attracts like. And it really bothered me because it doesn't. On if the magnets, like poles up opposite, no, they don't attract, they repel. So what does that
Hmm.
even mean? And I
Yeah.
found out in the haunting shortly thereafter what that meant in terms of that, like ideas, like mindsets, like situations attract those situations in the paranormal. So again, I had the scientific viewpoint upbringing, which
Yeah.
conflicted, at least in theory, with the paranormal. But as I was about to walk through these next 3 months, I began to see there is some overlap in those two worlds.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yes.
I definitely get what she was saying with the like coming together with. But okay, so you were amazed by and like, wow, this is a great lecture and all that. And
Yes.
then you get to the end where you and Jeff both walk up to
Right.
go shake their hands and say hello. And what happens there? That because
Right.
yeah.
Well, Jeff, as I mentioned, admired them. They had been on In Search of, and that's incredible. Those shows that people watch when they're younger. And there
Yeah.
was a book out called The Amityville Horror, I guess, that was written about a haunted location. And so
Yeah.
Jeff was really enthused to meet them. And at the end of the presentation, Ed Warren is like, "Come up and meet Lorraine," in his right, like almost circus performer voice.
Yeah.
And so Jeff's like, "Oh, this is great. I can ask them my questions." And he pushed me ahead of him, so he had more time to think of his questions. And pushed
Yeah.
me ahead. And so we're making our way up in the line toward the stage. And as I got to the stage, she looked at me. And Lorraine Warren said to me, "I won't shake your hand." And I thought maybe someone behind me was causing a scene. Like, "Oh, come on, don't
Yeah.
embarrass the college. Who's doing that?" She was looking at me. And she said, "I don't want to know my future." What? And Ed pushed me off the stage. I was thrown off the stage by Ed Warren. I'm like, that's embarrassing. And
Yeah.
they were going to go on an investigation across the college campus right after that for free.
Yeah.
And I said to Jeff, "I'm not going. They're mean. I don't like them anymore. They pushed me off the stage." And I was kind of hurt by that.
Yeah.
And so instead of going on this investigation, we went back to Erie Hall, named after Lake Erie, the Great Lake. And we sat in
Mhm.
my room, C2D1. And he began to ask me questions of why Lorraine might have done that. Are you sensitive? Do you this? You're making a face. And I
Yeah.
figured, well, this is a strange situation. I shouldn't have gone in the first place. My instincts were correct, and it just ended right there. But unfortunately for me, about 12 days later, the haunting began in earnest. We began to
Yeah.
hear this disembodied voice calling my name.
Yeah, the fact that and listen, Lorraine was the real deal. In my eyes, she
Yeah,
definitely was the real deal. But that phrase, "I don't want to know my future," that's what kind of threw me off with this whole thing. But evidently, she may have saw something in you, whether you have had a gift, like you said, that maybe you never used most of your life, but
right.
why she was so struck with it that she wouldn't shake your hand, even though you showed no outer
Right.
gift. You know what I mean? It's kind of weird, right? I mean,
It is. It is. And I didn't understand it. But, life has a way of showing things. The truth will out. And about 5 years ago, so we're
mm,
talking 25 years later, I was at,
yeah,
at an event and I ran into her daughter, Judy Spira, and
okay,
her husband, Tony, Lorraine Ed's daughter. And Judy said to me, "Oh my gosh, you're the ghost boy, right?" I'm like,
mm.
"Yeah." "Your name is Chris." I'm like, "Yes." "My mom loved you." I said, "Well, I don't think you have the right person. Let me explain what happened when I met your parents." And I
Yeah,
explained, "Oh, I know that." Judy didn't like going to her parents' presentations. It frightened her. And she would
yeah,
often wait in the car in a location and color or draw, play music and things. She told me this 25 years later that when her mom came back from their investigation, she
mhm,
told her about this young college kid whose aura was through the chart. It was so strong, this aura, bright, it blocked her senses. It blocked her from reading people. That's what she was paid to do. And
mhm,
so she wasn't afraid of me. It's just the fact that I was stopping her, overwhelming her with whatever she called this aura thing, whatever that is. And
yeah,
so here I thought they didn't like me, but the opposite was true. If I'd actually stayed along with them and maybe gone with them on this investigation, I might have talked some more with them, but I
yeah.
was hurt and they didn't say anything. And so for 25 years, I thought they didn't like me. And turns out the opposite was true. And I'm very proud that behind me, you might see two of these Spanish monks. Those
Yeah.
are from Ed and Lorraine Warren's library in Connecticut. So it's a nice thing as a reminder of our conversations we had.
Yes, and where it all began, right?
Yes.
So no gifts ever came out of this, like nothing psychic. You didn't, they
Well,
really.
not from that moment. I mentioned I was a nationally ranked runner, and when you're running marathons, you have to control your environment. You
Mm,
can't allow stray thoughts, to control you from your pacing, right? From the
right.
hill work, from your strategy. So it's all very left brain. My right brain wasn't used that often because it wasn't needed in those moments.
Hmm.
But when I found myself hearing this voice whispering, "Chris," I thought,
Yeah.
"What is that?" When I went to the door and no one was there. I looked at the window and no one was there. I began to have this creative process, like, hey, what could that be?
Hmm.
Am I suffering from hallucination? Is there a gas leak in the room? Are there drugs in my food? Is there a practical joke? Is it mass hysteria? Was I hypnotized? And I was hypnotized. I was trying to figure out. And when the answers don't come easy to you, you get creative. It wasn't about
Yeah.
pacing or mileage work. All of a sudden, I found myself in this whole new area of exploration that I was not comfortable with.
Yeah. I wonder if it was, I mean, it was 12 days later, so it's not
Yes.
like it happened right away. Although 12 days later is pretty
And
darn
how do I
quickly,
know,
but
Dino? How do I know? I wasn't looking for those things that might have been present before, but I didn't know how to hear it. It's just
yeah,
when I did hear it, it was very quiet in the room. I was working on a paper and I heard the whispering. So for all I know, it could have begun before that, but I didn't know what to look for. It's like being in a strange city for the first time, a big
yeah,
city, where the bathrooms, where the subways, you don't really know much, just trying to get your bearings. So
right.
the first time I noticed something was on February 11th, yes, in the evening.
Yeah. And sometimes meeting somebody like that or just being in the same room as somebody like Lorraine who has all this energy and is puts it out there, could have triggered something in the switch in you to
Yeah.
be open to all of that stuff and start hearing and stuff. But the
I
first
think
time you did go ahead. Go ahead.
I think so. I think when you're exposed, I'm a teacher. I teach high school,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
the idea is to expose students to new ideas and new ways of thinking. That's the whole idea, is to have their brain grow. And I
Right.
think that being in that auditorium, listening to these sounds, hearing this testimony, made my mind for the first time consider seriously that could be the case. And I think that when you allow yourself an opportunity to learn, to grow, opportunities can present themselves. Now, I wasn't looking for that, but sometimes you put yourself in a place, things can happen.
Right. Yep. If you're in at the right place at the right time,
Yes.
things most certainly can happen. And the first thing that you notice 12 days later is kind of this voice in the headphones, right? That's where you hear the voice.
I was typing. I'm old school. We had no computers back then. You had to go to the library, do the card catalog, find the book on the shelf, read the book,
It's the
put it,
80s. Yep, we know
put it
it.
in your words. You have to type it up, and the onion paper. This is ridiculous. So I
Yeah.
wanted to give myself time, and I actually heard it with my own ears. After the second time, I thought, well, this must be a joke. And my dad told me, control your environment. If I can't
Mhm.
hear these morons, they can't bother me. So I put headphones on. I put in Sammy Hagar, Voice of America. I can't drive 55, didn't it? Right? So I
Yeah.
can't hear them then.
Yeah.
In the headphones, over the song, I heard Chris, boom, I think on the ground. Then I knew something very strange was happening.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. And that's
It
got to be
cannot be.
scary for the first time.
Right.
That's so it started with just disembodied voices, and it was just the word Chris, right?
My
Did they
name.
start saying anything else at all, or was it just
Just
Chris?
just my name. And I didn't
And
tell anybody what was happening to me. I didn't tell my roommate. But the following evening, we're sitting in those college rooms are very small, with a couple of desks in there. And I was
yeah.
reading a Runner's World magazine, I think, and my roommate started to yell at me saying, "Stop, cut it out, you're pissing me off." And I said to him, "What am I doing?" He said, "You're blocking my light with your hands." I
Uh,
said, "Dude, I'm 12 feet away. How am I doing that?" He says, "I don't know how you're doing that." I said, "Well, I'm at my desk. What are you talking about? There are these shadows in the room." I'm like, "Paul, I don't see anything." So he left. I locked the door. I sat back down. Okay, cool. Wait a second. I heard the voice yesterday. Now he's seeing these shadows. That's weird. Let's
yeah.
calm things down a bit. Let's go like the baseline now. And all of us have things. Some people smoke, they run, they dance, they sing. I used to like these hot tamale candies. They're like Mike and Ike's, but cinnamon flavor. I got
Yeah.
these.
Yeah.
I'm chewing these candies, calm myself down, and I see peripheral vision over my right shoulder. I see this person standing behind me. And
Yeah.
I know that's impossible because I'm on the second floor. I'm 30 feet in the air. The
Hmm.
door's in front of me. It's locked. It's a small room. No
Hmm.
one can be there. And I said, okay, let's just calm myself down. You're not seeing that. Your mind is
Hmm.
playing tricks on you. Just count to 10, 1001,
Yeah.
1002, and calm yourself down, because separate the anxiety from the moment. And I got to 7 of this 10 count, and it moved. I saw it move behind me. And so I turned.
Hmm.
And at 7, I turned and I saw this thing. It looked like a human being, it looked like a young man,
Okay.
very pale. But the weird thing about this person was that the legs of this thing were coming out of the stereo. The stereo that I'd used earlier, the
Yeah.
thing was inside of it, almost like the vision from WandaVision. There's And I knew that was not possible. And so I figured I must be sleeping. I must have passed out. My roommate left. I'm having a dream. And so I remember, like, they always told you, like, pinch yourself. So I pinched my leg and it
Yeah.
hurt like, ouch. And it said, this is disbelieve. And then the thing moved toward me and I screamed. I screamed to the candy box in the air. Ah! Ran out the
Yeah.
door, down the hallway, first door I came to. Bang, 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 bang. Oh my God, let me in. Help. Oh, total panic. It was the
Yeah.
first time in my life I had lost control.
Wow. You say it looked pale.
Yeah.
Uh, any other distinguishing features like clothing or anything
Yeah.
else that stood out?
That's a quality question because people want us because not being there. What did you actually see?
Yeah.
This thing, pardon the term, thing, was wearing clothing I didn't recognize.
Hmm.
I couldn't tell what the shirt was. It had maybe stripes on it or something, or buttons, and I didn't recognize the style. The pants of the legs that go into the stair, I didn't recognize, almost like old blue jeans or something. I didn't recognize any of the clothing styles at all, but there was
Okay.
clothing on it. It looked mostly to be either blue with some sparks of yellow or gold on the clothing. And when my friend Jeff came running to the room saying, "What do you do? What's the matter?" I
Hmm.
told him I had panicked and I had seen a ghost, and I began to describe to him what I had seen. And Jeff, I was lucky he was there. He's the one that took me to the presentation. He'd always wondered about if there were things beyond the normal. Was there a Bigfoot? Were there UFOs? Was there
Yeah.
vampires? And by the time he got to college, he realized probably not. And so for him, it was very
Yeah.
exciting to say, "Oh my gosh, wait, there's something right next door." So he began to keep notes, and I have the first edition and photocopies of these things. Every day he wrote notes and kept track of what was happening in the room, day
Nice.
after day, week after week, for two reasons. Number one, it allowed us to look back when the daylight came out, the thing was gone, to analyze why it was there, when it was there, and how it occurred. Also, it's something I could bring to a therapist or a psychiatrist and say, "Listen, I
Yeah.
am going crazy and I really need your help. This is what I'm
Right.
seeing. Give me a pill." So that's why
Yeah.
it was like, it wasn't, it later became the backbone for the TV shows, the movies, books, things like that. But it wasn't written to be shared. It was written as a very personal, recording of what was going on.
Yeah, and this Jeff, your friend Jeff Unger,
Yes.
who he took the role as a paranormal investigator kind of in this in
Yeah.
everything that was going on by trying to get as many facts down on paper or via, camera or
He
whatever,
did.
right? I mean,
He was the rock in the high tide. He
yeah.
he figured that the best thing he could do, aside from just keep me alive, was to get data that we could analyze to see what actually was going on. And he didn't want it to be a ghost, neither did I. But as we began to rule out certain things after about 4 or 5 days, we're thinking, "Geez, this seems like it must be something
Mhm.
paranormal." And he was intrigued by that idea because, cerebrally speaking, that's a cool concept, right? But I was in it and I wanted to stop. I just wanted this to
Oh
end.
yeah.
So, people, and this, will spend thousands of dollars a weekend to go to some old location and get their K2 meters and their other
Right.
devices and look for signs. I'm in this room, but this thing comes right to me, starts talking to me. So what they want, I had, but ironically, I didn't want
Yeah.
it. I didn't want anything to do with it.
No, I hear you, man. Listen, a lot of the people who really do want to see something, want something to happen, is people who like me. Like
Yeah,
I'm in search of what's going to happen when we pass on.
right.
Is there an afterlife? Is there something else? And when you firsthand have an experience like you have, I mean, not that I'm saying, listen, the afterlife's there, but you've got questions now, right? You've seen something,
Yeah.
you've heard
Oh,
something,
yes.
so something is going on that
Yes.
isn't normal. So
Yes.
yeah,
A
so
lot
that's
to
kind of
analyze. A lot to
yeah,
analyze. Understanding is more difficult.
exactly, and that's kind of where I think a lot of people are. And if you have a bad experience, man, that's going to suck big time. And if it scares you, it's going to scare
Yeah.
you. But uh, and during all of this, the figure, it was see through, never fully like totally a person.
It looked like it was a human being who was beginning to fade. So at times you could see the curtains behind it, like through its body and things like that. But for the
Yeah.
most part, if you look quick, you would think it's a human, just a person staying in the room, just like you and I would do. And one of the things,
Oh,
difference between investigating, where you pick the time, pick the location, pick your friends, pick the equipment, pick what you want to do, and your time off from work. When a haunting occurs, you don't pick any of that. it controls when it's there, what it wants to do. And so it begins to affect your health, your sleeping habits, your eating habits,
Oh
your
yeah.
schooling, your job. And so over time, what happens is if you don't control your environment, it controls you and you lose connections with those things you have in your life that keep you anchored to reality.
Oh yeah. No, I hear you. Um, geez, I've got see. I go overboard with asking questions on like I want to know like it definitely was a boy or a man.
It looked like
Uh,
a young man, I'd say between 18 and 23.
yeah, long hair, dark hair.
It had a light brown hair, darker than mine, obviously. He was a little taller than I was,
Yeah.
wider face than I had, wider face. Looked like he had
Okay.
brown eyes when I saw the eyes. Sometimes it was missing.
Huh.
The hair was
Okay.
kind of cropped short, though. He was clean shaven. I
Yeah.
don't know who it was. I mean, I didn't. It was no
Okay,
one that I
yeah.
knew from my life. Let's put it that way.
And you couldn't tell no like a time period or anything like that. So
Well,
that was
again,
relevant.
the clothing I didn't recognize. If
Yeah.
eventually we began to realize, it seemed like it might have been like Revolutionary War time, like
Okay.
the pictures might have wore with their uniforms and things. But that took
Yeah.
a number of weeks for us to begin to see, okay, what are you seeing again? What do you see now? Because to be honest with you, this is a little embarrassing. When
No.
I saw it, I'd usually throw things at it and run away. It wasn't very
Okay.
brave in the beginning because I didn't want it to be there, you know. And when you're in first grade, there's always some girl or boy says to you, "Here's a note. I
Yeah.
like you. Do you like me? Circle one, yes or no." And
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
back and forth, you know, and they kind of stalk you a bit until it doesn't work out. Well,
Right,
here this
right.
thing is stalking me, but I don't know how to get rid of it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I
And
hear
I
you.
was afraid the more I knew about it, the more I found out about it, the more it connect to me and latch on to me, which I was scared of.
And everything happened just abruptly. So that I could see you throwing some at it. I get it.
Yeah,
There was a point of where you had a wrestling match kind of with the pillow on your
yeah,
bed. That was
yeah.
interesting. Yeah, yeah. Talk
This,
about that a little bit.
one of the interesting things about this haunting, which I didn't like, was that
Yeah.
this thing seemed to understand what I was thinking or knowing, and the information it had would be beyond me. So I'm gonna give you an example, and then I'll talk about the
Okay.
pillow.
Okay.
When I was in high school in March of '81, a
Hmm.
friend of mine named Paula Pereira on the track team,
Hmm.
we were been friends since we were in middle school. On the sports bus, she asked me out. I want to go out with you. And I said, no,
Okay.
thank you. Two reasons. Number one, I wasn't drawn to her that way. Number two, she had a boyfriend with my friend. That's not cool. That's a bad look, you know? And so she got
Gotcha.
angry at me and said, you should have said yes. You should have said yes. And she walked off the bus, gone, just in darkness. She was not
Mm,
going.
mm.
That following week, the police came to the school. And apparently what happened was someone picked her up, raped her, killed her, and left her for dead on the side of the road.
Oh
And
my.
I thought to myself, my God, if I just said to her, yes, I'll go out with you, and lied to her, she'd be
Oh,
alive today. And I always felt very bad about that, that how one choice, seeing the
yeah.
Warrens, one choice, saying no to this young lady, can change lives. We don't know at the time what the consequence will be. And so I
Yeah.
felt very bad because they didn't find her killer for years, almost 15 years. So
Yeah.
I had a picture of my young godchild, and I put a picture of Paula she gave me behind that. I want to bring a piece of Paula with me to college. So I always say a prayer for her now and then, keep her in my mind. I
Okay.
told not a human being on the planet. One evening, we heard a crash below our loft. I looked down, and there's a picture frame torn apart, and her picture is right in the middle of the desk. I thought, oh my God, how does it know? It
Huh.
knew things it could not possibly know, and it really scared me. And with the pillow, people
Mm.
have things they like. And I like Linus the blanket. I brought my pillow from home. That's my pillow.
Yeah, yeah. Right, right.
And it got yanked out from under my head. But hey, listen, it's possible. You move quickly and it was out. So I pulled it back and I pulled again. I'm like, what's going on? I thought maybe my friend Paul was like, had climbed the ladder, was playing a game. He was sleeping. And I saw that my pillow was in the air, like levitating. I'm like, oh, come on. And I get
Mm,
angry. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm trying to sleep. And I don't
yeah.
leave my goddamn pillow alone. It's my pillow and it
Mm,
wouldn't let go. So I hooked my feet on the bottom side of the mattress, almost doing like a crunch, right? And I
yeah.
pull the pillow and it's not letting go. So I said to my roommate, Paul, who's sleeping, Paul, wake up, wake up. You
Yeah.
can see this. I don't want to see. I said, Paul, you need to look right now. So he looked, he goes, oh my God, I shouldn't be seeing this. And he saw
Mm,
this fight basically.
yeah.
Then I went back to Lorraine Warren. As much as I thought how silly it was, how unreal it was, she had said, if something happens to you, say the following: in Jesus Christ, I command you to leave me alone. And the pillow
Mhm.
dropped. I'm like, And then that's when I
Wow.
was under the covers with like the air hole to breathe out of,
Yeah,
1,000
yeah.
degrees. Here I am. I was actually
I would do the
like a
same.
grown man, but I'm scared to death. And so yeah, those things, people talk about as like being pretty cool. I guess conceptually those things are cool, but when you're
Well,
fighting for your survival, and that's what it felt like, at least to us, man, it was rough.
yeah.
And I couldn't touch it. I'd throw things at it, it'd go through it, bounce off the walls, bing, 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 but it could touch me. It would rub my feet at night, back of my neck it would touch. I could feel the coldness. I would wake up sometimes, Dino, and it'd be right in my face, right here, breathing my breath. And my face would be frozen, but I'd be frozen shut. I'd scream around the hallway going, ah, my boxer shorts, it was terrifying. And
Oh
so
man.
because it was so terrifying, eventually Paul and I thought, Paul said, let's go get a priest. That's the reason why we got a priest, because in the
Yeah.
movies, that's what you do. There was no
Yeah.
ghost adventures back then, no ghost hunters. There were no groups to help you out. All
Yeah.
you had was literature from the
Yeah.
Middle Ages, medieval times and spirits,
Right.
and what you might have seen in church of, which is a 10-minute clip,
Mhm.
or the movies. And the movies
Yeah.
always had some kind of holy figure raise
Yeah.
their cross or their holy object and save you from this despair.
Oh yeah, no, and yeah, and we'll get to that. We'll get to the end here. But yeah, listen, just the force, like you couldn't pull that pillow away. So the
Ooh.
strength of the spirit that was uh pulling that pillow, and you're struggling with it, is just amazing in itself,
At
and
that point in time, Dino, I was running 10 to 12 miles a day. I was
oh
working out
yeah,
every day. I was in top condition. I was strong and I was fast and I was
I hear
young.
you.
And usually I got what I wanted, not that night.
Yeah, no, listen, I hear you. Listen, I went to state in track and field, and I'm there with you. I was more of a long jumper, sprinter,
Right.
but I'm right there with you, man. But yeah, scary stuff, and the putting the covers over the eyes and just showing the listen. Art Bell, I'm a big fan of
Good guy.
Art Bell, and I know you were on George Noory, you were on
Yes,
Syfy
afterwards.
Channel. So listen, you guys, this story, this is taken. He wanted nothing to do with it for many, many years, and I get it. I totally understand. Put that in the past. But then I think Syfy came to you in
Right.
2015, I believe,
Yeah,
and
they found me
yeah,
and they said, listen, we'll put you on television. I said, okay.
story got out, and it
Yeah.
became a big thing. And it's actually going to be bigger than ever coming up in the future. But
Yes.
um, yeah, the whole Art Bell thing, they had these the Ghost Investigators Society, a GIS, and they would play the little EVPs, and most of them were little kids' voices on there, and spooky as heck. And I'm in my 20s, 30, listen to Art Bell, and listen, I'm looking over, I couldn't sleep with my body to the bare side of the floor.
Suggestion. Right.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Because I think maybe something's gonna creep up and get just hearing the voices scare the living
Right.
daylights out of you, hey, Dave Plouffe, what's going on? Trogdor, I'm not ignoring everybody in the chat, but this is a very interesting story. Seth the Welsh, what's going on? Please be sure, and Harry Scott, what's going on? Definitely check out the link below. This is a story that I would say, and in a couple years, people are going to be hitting these YouTube videos with his story, just to see what he had to say back then, because
Right.
this is very, very interesting, but one that slipped on by me. But I did want to get to the other thing, like did anybody else other than you in the dorm, your friend Paul, in the school itself, was there any other activity going on anywhere else other than C2D1 during this time?
Right. Initially, the effects of the haunting were primarily inside that room.
Mhm.
This thing, for whatever reason, had its sights on me and was focused almost squarely on me.
Yeah.
When we went to the church and Father Charles Manning agreed to come down and check out what's happening with us because we were scared out of our minds,
Yeah.
he did what's called a blessing, and he had it's a cool looking book. It's like called the Viaticum, and I actually had a copy. This is the book that he had with him, not the
Okay.
exact copy of the book that he had in terms of the type of book with him.
Yeah.
And he had some prayers. He anointed my forehead with oil on the side of a cross. He had some holy water and things, and I put these candles out. He said some prayers, and it wasn't like you see on TV with like bat feet, explosions, and goop in the walls. It was just a
Right.
ceremony. And remember, he walked in. He said, "Wow, this place is." That's what he said. Wow, this place is. They stopped talking, and he
Yeah.
did this ceremony. I didn't exactly know how it worked. I'm more of a science person, and then he stopped talking, and I figured it must have been over, and
Hmm.
he said, "We're good." I said, "Well, what does that mean?" He goes, "Well, I was here for two reasons, to help you and the ghost, and I asked the ghost to find rest someplace else. It's called a blessing." "Can I get back in the room?" I asked him. He's only went back in. I'm like, we're good, and I
Yeah.
thought that's pretty compelling, because
Yeah.
Paul had seen in the room his books, he said, floating. He had said that when I was sleeping, there was this orb above my head, which he knew would tell me to scare me.
Hmm.
Jeff had seen when I had my hands out looking for the thing, these sparkles around my hands. But for the most part, it's just what I was seeing and feeling then. Once the blessing was done, the room
Hmm.
got quiet. No more shadows, flashing clocks, no more words, talking whispers. But then 3 days later, the thing got violent. It began to attack me, it attacked Beth, it held Linda down in her bed, it attacked Brian. So once the blessing occurred, within a few days, all
Hmm.
bets were off, and you would see it in the gymnasium, in the library, in their buildings. The thing just exploded, and then all of a
Huh.
sudden, 8, 9, 10 people seeing it, experiencing it, and so because it was, according to them, my ghost, although it wasn't my ghost, I
Right.
became the ghost boy. People turned to me to solve the problem, and I said, "Well, how am I supposed to do that?" And I can't ask the priest to bless 25 rooms.
Right.
He was nervous to begin with. It's a secular building. It's a state campus. You can't
Right.
be doing, religious ceremonies on state property officially like that. So him coming on the first time, he actually disguised himself as a repairman for the stereo. No one knew he
Yeah.
was a priest. So I kept asking him back over and over again because my room was still good. And so then we
Yeah.
turned towards science. And Dr. Lawrence Kessler, a professor of psychology at Geneseo,
Yeah.
he wrote stuff for Reader's Digest, for Playboy magazine. He studied UFOs, nudist camps,
Okay.
marriage, ghosts. He was a fascinating dude.
Huh.
Uh,
Okay.
we reached out to him, and he let us know how you can get research done and how you collect data and how you can avoid contamination. And he gave Jeff, my friend, the go ahead to use some of this equipment and things like that. So we
Mhm.
went from spirituality, which helped me in that room, but not
Yeah.
anything else, to science to help understand how we stop it out once it got out there. And then by that point in time, Dino,
Yeah.
Jeff had also taken some pictures in the room of the ghost. He wanted pictures, and so now there's a picture of this ghost in my room,
Yeah.
and they were getting tapes of this thing talking. So now the papers are coming. Democrat and Chronicle, the USA Today stopped by. It was getting bizarre, and I would hide behind those big mailboxes outside, and they're looking for me. Where have you seen Chris? Seen the Ghost Boy? And the responses were insane. Anything
Hmm.
from "you're going to hell because you have to repent for your sins" to "if you're God, who am I?" I couldn't just be me. And you would
Right.
think, "Oh, how cool. You're the ghost boy." I don't want to be the ghost boy. I want to
Right.
be Chris. I want to find myself. I'm just turned 19, just
Yeah.
nope. And I learned that what society says about you, the state enough becomes the truth, whether it is or not. It's like
Oh yeah.
politics.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. For
If you say
sure.
it enough, people
Oh,
believe it.
yep. Yep. But Jeff did go on to like you said, he took there is one picture out there, right? Is
There
there
are a
more?
few. There
There
are a
are a
few.
few. Okay.
Um, the one of the main pictures is a picture of me with my arms out like this. And that's
Yeah.
where Jeff had said to me to call the ghost. I know what the hell that meant, but I said, okay, I'll try. Put my arms out. And that
Yeah.
thing came right out of the closet, right through the room, went right through me. Boom. And you can
Mm.
see in that photograph, it's coming towards me. You can see my shirt. My shirt is blowing back at the sleeves, the shirt here, the
Yeah.
cardboard paper is bending back behind me. So it's a good picture, and that shows the effect of whatever this was on the physical inhabitants, like myself included, of that room.
Yeah.
Another photograph's one that I took. Jeff had said, "Where's the ghost?" And I saw him above my bed, where
Mm.
it liked to camp out for some reason. This is before the blessing.
Yeah.
And he didn't see it. And so I said, "It's right there, Jeff. The dead guy looking at us, that's the ghost. I don't see it." "What do you mean?" He said, "If you see it, take my camera, take the picture." So I raised his camera. I'm an Ultra 35 millimeter camera. Took the
Yeah.
shot and I ran out of the room. So when that shot came back, right pointed, there was a human skeleton. That's also one of the pictures that got a lot of play back in the 90s on the internet without
Yeah.
my involvement. I didn't know while I'm going shopping at Pathmark Shopping Center that people are in Czechoslovakia, people in Rome, people are watching, looking at my photographs. I have no clue they were shared that way. And so
Yep.
this again all was without my knowledge or doing that. This whole legend began to spread around, but mostly in the Western New York area.
Yeah, and you say you did get some EVPs too, huh?
Yeah, that was with the help of Dr. Kassler. The
Okay.
the cool thing about that for my friends were for Linda, Beth, Judy, Ed, Brian, all those folks,
Mhm.
was that they heard the ghost say, "Help me, please, help me, Chris." I thought, "Oh my gosh,
Mm.
he's communicating. He's using our language. This is incredible. Talk about
Yeah.
like a top-notch EVP."
Mm.
And I was horrified because what is it doing?
Mm.
Asking for their help. It's
It's
asking for
asking
my
you.
help. And guess what? I don't know how to help it. So
Right.
every darn time something good happened with evidence, it was worse for me. I don't want to see a dead thing above my bed. I already know it's there. And if I can use one quick analogy for you, sometimes people get in a relationship where there's not enough trust, and they
Yeah.
might think that their other is cheating on them, and they might hire somebody to follow them around, a detective to follow them around. It could be
Mm.
nothing. Maybe they're going bowling. Maybe it's an art class, but it's kind of like that. Can you imagine if you pay somebody to follow the person you care about around, and a week later they come back with an envelope, they put it in front of you, boom, there it is. What's that? There's your evidence of what? Oh,
Mm.
so I open that envelope. What do I see? The person I love with who? My best friend,
Mm.
a neighbor. Is she
Yeah.
happy? Is it my bed? I mean, sometimes you're not served by data. You're not served by being right. Sometimes, you don't want to see the things that hurt you so bad. And so for
Yeah.
me, not investigating, surviving, every new piece of evidence bothered me because
Mm.
people are encouraged by this. Oh, talk more to it. See what it wants. Get more involved. I
Yeah.
don't want to be more involved. They didn't understand it wasn't calling their name. And all throughout the haunting, Paul heard it call my name. Beth
Right.
heard it call it never called anyone's name but my own. So they had the luxury of not being the focus point. And if you think about this, the priest blessed the room. I'm
Yeah.
good, right? No.
Yeah.
It begins to attack my friends to bring me to them. Help me, Chris, help me. And so he attacks my friends. I come running to my friends, and there I am with him again. Brilliant move, scary. Like
Yeah.
a knife to a gunfight.
It's got to be a heavy weight on you too.
Yeah.
Just calling you and you only, and you have no idea who this person is. Like,
Oh,
is there some attachment that it has to me, or what's going? It's those are things that had to have been going through your mind.
I wanted to go home. I wanted to leave college. I
I
was trying
bet.
to get the heck out of there. But, back in those days, you went to college was a big deal. My
Yeah.
grandparents mixed paint in factories and carried boxes to warehouse. The blue collar people coming from Italy and Ireland.
Mm.
Going to college was something new. My grandpa fought in World War II. His friend got blown up. He barely made it back. Had malaria. My uncle fought in Vietnam. Got his knees blown out. I
Yeah.
can't go back home saying hearing voices. It wasn't what the family did, and I was their pride and joy going to college. So
Yeah.
I had to find a way to stick it out. Luckily, Jeff was there with me to navigate these tough times. The hardest part for me was on March the 10th,
The,
4 days after the blessing, where
the
the attack in
shower.
the bathroom occurred. And that
Okay.
was a
Yeah.
low point.
Oh yeah, and talk about that. Yeah, I mean, listen, the priest blessed, and then you get this severe attack. What?
Yes.
4 days later, you say?
Yep. It was
In the
bizarre. You
yeah, in
know,
the yeah, go ahead.
people sometimes talk about a mindset, a lens. When that attack happened, the shower attack, we call it, um, I now was an impression that the priest blessing had worked. There'd been a thing in my room for days. I was out running again. It was great. So first
Mhm.
thing from my mind, I just wanted to put it in the back in the rearview mirror. And so I went this long run in the Avon countryside, about a 10-mile run, and I came back. I'm in the bathroom's a small place.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
one stall, two sinks to brush your teeth and shave, and then one shower. And I'm in the shower, and it got very dark in there. I was to look up, and I see the silhouette of this ghost. I'm thinking, no, I must rub my eyes. It's like pareidolia. I'm not really seeing that. It's just PTSD. And then it
mhm,
moves, and I watch this shadow move across the ceiling, and I think, wait, the light source is singular. It's above me.
mhm.
My shadow's by my feet. There can't be. And I realized, okay, it might be the ghost. So what do I do? Make a plan. Go back to the shower, turn the water off, no flood, and then
Yeah.
call the priest saying, "Help me out, please." Well, I'm back in that shower stall, put my hand on the faucet lever, I turn the water off, and bam! It felt as though I was stabbed with a knife. And I use that analogy because if you cut your finger, it's a sharp edge, you don't feel it at first. It's a
Yeah.
clean slice, there's no pain. But you know, in a few minutes, cold water's gonna hurt a lot. So it felt like a clean slice. It was so strong that I was lifted off my feet a little bit and pushed against the wall. My face hit the wall. Whoever tasting the cleanser on the wall they clean tiles with. But
Yeah.
it's not the movies. In the movies they go, oh no, they trip and fall. Right? It's so stupid. No, I'm attacked. I turn. I punch as hard as I can punch. The direction the attack came from. I turn the shower curtain off. The shower curtain wrong. Whoosh, and there's nobody. And I'm screaming, "Who are you? What are you? Show yourself, you coward! Show yourself!" And there's nothing. Nothing. I look in the bathroom mirror above the sink to see the knife on my back, whatever it is. There's no knife. What I see are 3 roughly parallel scratches that are bleeding from my neck area down to my waist. I thought, oh my God, I feel bad for him. I mean, he's not going to make it through. And then all of a sudden I remembered, oh, wait, that's me. Why is it happening? I felt bad for myself. I felt like the world wasn't fair. Why am I being put under this? But then I thought, you know what? I'm a history teacher, right? I was a history major.
Yeah.
Remember those photographs of Buchenwald and right, all the corpses piled up, mass graves?
Yeah.
They probably prayed. They probably helped. They probably had dreams. What happened to them? They weren't saved. So why should I be? And so rather than lament my fate, I just kind of closed my eyes, breathed. My mom had left college to have me. She had everything to have me. I was kind of sad that I'd be dying now as a teenager. More time was wasted. So I said, make a calm face for my mom in a casket. She's not worried about me at all. So if she feels like I died in peace, I fell on the ground face first of this bathroom. And I'm on the bathroom floor face down, and I can't move because either the pain or the shock or the cold. I'm lying there shivering in this puddle of water. And on the only thing I can see is a droplet, one bead of water, a pear-shaped bead of water on my wrist, and it's shining the light. It's beautiful in the light of the bathroom. And I see there in that bead of water is a reflection of the room. It's inverted. I'm like, water inverts light. That's science. And then it fell off my arm to the ground. I thought, wait, that's gravity. Gravity pulls down. That's what it did. And then I looked down by my face, and the grout in the tile, the grout was dark and moisture. So I knew in that moment that science was working. I was seeing things as they were, but then what the hell is this? You know, and I can't every day put my brain back together again. I'm going to get tired. I'm going to wear out. It's going to own me and control me. It's almost like in a way when folks have a hard time with dyslexia. You can't read the words properly. How do you express yourself? Oh, they're not trying. Oh, they're slow. No. Neither one is true. They see things differently. Right. How do you explain that without knowing the words to do so? And so I remember lying there thinking, this is it. I'm done. At that moment, Jeff opened the door, and then he came in, and Ed, and they picked me off the ground, put a towel around me, and they dragged me out of the bathroom to bring me to a hospital because I was bleeding.
Didn't you get pictures of that, or is that just something created?
That's what Jeff had wanted. Just listen, this is fascinating evidence. You know, you got these scratches all down your back. We got to take a picture of this. And I said to him, dude, if you're my friend, you get these pictures. What? I need a friend. I don't be Ghost Boy. I don't be a subject. I had to know that they're there for me first. I said, if you're my friend, put the camera down and deal with me, not that. He's like, but the light, he said, I'm your friend. Put the camera down and said, okay, all right. And so it's silly to think back, how emotional is that? How weak is that? Just like crawling up in a ball under covers. But that's where I was, even though I had been an honor student, a nationally ranked runner, and that's what this thing had done to me. I was reverting back to almost a childlike state, you know? So no, there are no pictures. Eyewitnesses, Alinda saw them, Beth saw them, Ed saw them, Paul, Jeff, but I said, please don't, because I don't want yet another reminder of And so do I regret it now? I should regret it now. But at the time, I needed to know, Dino, honestly, that they were there not for the Ghost Boy.
Yes.
But for Chris.
Exactly. Listen, and this story does not, there's many witnesses. Otherwise it wouldn't be, as talked about, I don't think, as it is. I mean, there were so many people who witnessed it, heard the voices, seen things, and were there when you had these, whatever happened on your back there, which technically was it just a scratch, or were they deep cuts?
They're pretty deep. I had those. This happened is March 10th. I went to the beach in early July. So was that 4 months later? I took my shirt off, forgetting. I'm like, what happened to your back? I'm like, oh.
Oh,
Those college girls are crazy. I kind of get covered the college girl story. You're like, dude,
yeah.
you're a beast. I know. So I had to wear
Oh
such a
Lord.
summer. In September of that year, 6 months later, you can still make
Yeah.
them out there faint by then. And for about 2 years, I've had a sunburn in my back. You can see where that was, but that's been 30 years. You can't see them anymore. But yeah, they were significant. And they burned. I mean, it wasn't as I was
Yeah.
surprised they're bleeding so fast too. I couldn't understand how it just happened moments before and they're already gushing. I didn't understand any of that.
Yeah, you've probably researched plenty to know that that's how it goes too. I mean, a lot of times in these paranormal investigations, when scratches appear, something like that on the arm or something, it comes with a cold sensation. That then you immediately get the bleeding and either deep kind of wounds or why that is, who the heck knows?
I don't know. I could
But
tell you that in this case, Thing was angry. He seemed to resent the fact that the
yeah,
room blessed. He seemed to be angry I was pushing him away from me. That seems to be what was going on.
yeah. Yeah, that's really strange. Hey, Punisher. Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you here, man. Yeah, that's the again, I keep hearkening to the story itself. Why to you? Why was it reaching out to you? But did anybody, did Ed and Lorraine come back and try to figure this out? Did they not hear about it until years later?
Yeah. Well,
Anybody?
I don't know about them because again,
Okay.
at that time I thought they didn't like me, that I was bad, they would
Right, right.
I would as a bad thing for them. So I didn't ever reach out to them. But
Yeah.
Jeff did a lot of research and he talked to find about Father Francis Trvl, who did the Hinsdale House and things, and he was
Mhm.
always reading about Colin Wilson. So we were trying our
Yeah.
best between all of us to make sense of what was going on. The thought was at that time, because the neck was always tilted to the left, like maybe hung itself or committed suicide or hung in a tree. We
Yeah.
assumed at that point in time that some college kid, very young looking, must have felt the pressures of college and killed themselves in that room or that area. That was the thought at the time. We thought, just poor kid. We didn't know, and I didn't really want to know. In fact, even 27 years later with the Syfy show, we didn't know. It wasn't until my mother was doing some genealogy when she retired from her job that we began to piece things together. I
Mhm.
finally got the courage to talk this thing on April 13th. I'm skipping ahead a bit. And
Okay.
Devido said to me, if you do talk to it, ask questions that are close-ended, not things like how do you feel, but ask it things that can be verified. And so when I finally had the willpower to talk to it, one
Mhm.
of the things I asked it was, where are you from? And it had said to me, Danville. And there's a place called Danville with an S in it, not too
Huh.
far away. So again, I thought it must have been a kid from local kid who had a hard time in college. Well, years later to Syfy, my mother was doing some genealogy and said, there was a guy who was killed by your college. He was hung in some tree. Like what? And we always called this ghost Tommy. Tommy, can you hear me? Tommy knockers, all these words, right? And so his
Yeah.
name was Tommy, Thomas. And it turns out he was killed in the tree I ran by all the time on that same route. And it turns out that my relatives found his body in 1779, and he came from Danville, no S,
Huh.
Pennsylvania. So he was telling me where he came from 27 years
Okay.
prior, but I didn't have the wherewithal or ability to
Yeah.
understand what that meant.
Oh, how strange.
Yeah.
How weird.
Yep.
The connection there, the getting together, the connection. Yeah, that's so odd, so weird, but,
Well, I caution people. I tell people, listen, just be careful. You
oh,
can
yeah.
glean things. You can find information there are people who are very talented at being psychics, but no one knows everything. And just like
Yeah.
in real life, in the tangible world, we still
Mhm.
disagree, misunderstand things, have problems. So you can't
Right.
assume any psychic, no matter who good they are, gets everything right. It's harder. You don't hear as well. You can't see
Mhm.
as clearly. So be cautious. Don't make the facts fit your theory. Watch where the facts lead
Right.
you. Develop a theory, which is very important because people want to get on TV, they want to get on Facebook, post their orb. I get it. But the
Yeah.
most important thing in this field is, if you can get it, is credibility. The credibility to say, I'm looking for answers. Here's what I know. Here's what I don't know. And I think it's a
Yeah.
critical thing. And so I tell young people coming up, don't toot your own horn. Do what you can do as best you can. Be kind to people and share your evidence. And that's the way you can inspire people, because you're insulting them by saying, I know more than you do.
Right, right. Exactly. No, I gotcha. Getting back, I don't know if we've, missed anything, but I know there were some other things that happened during that 3-month
Yeah.
period that, I don't know if they're just rumors. I thought I heard something about suicide
Mm.
and other things that happened during this period. Is that true too?
Yeah, this is one of the ways that you will understand as a human being, as a mature
Mhm.
human being, that this is not something made up for TV or fame. When you make something up, all the lines connect, all the T's are crossed, the I's dotted. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
In the real world, you have to go to the bathroom. In the real world, you hiccup. In the real world, people don't do what you want them to do. And one of the things I can mention to you is that during this time period, there was a student in my dorm who I won't give the name because he was the only child and the
Right.
parents lost him. And I
Hmm.
told everybody, I'm not going to give the name out because even the Syfy, I said, these parents lost their child. He
Yeah.
committed suicide because of what happened at the dorm. I said,
Mm.
I don't do that. Don't exploit for money these people's loss. And I said, that's not right. And so we allude to it sometimes. We don't really talk about it, but I can share this with you.
Mm.
His roommate came to me and said, Chris, do me a favor. My roommate's having a hard time. He keeps hearing the ghost call your name. Chris, Chris. Won't leave him alone. I took him camping. He heard it.
Yeah.
Took him to the movies. He heard it. He had talked to him about your ghost. I said to him, it's not my ghost. My ghost
Yeah.
is in me. It talks to me, but I what can I do about this? I have a professor of psychology helping out. I got a priest helping out. I can't help him. And I felt bad I said that
Yeah.
because maybe had I talked to him, maybe not, it would have been different. But
Yeah.
again, I'm a teenager. I'm trying to put one in front of the other. I'm not thinking big picture. The last time I saw him was the following day. He was walking out of the campus with a backpack on toward the
Mm.
college union hallway, looking depressed.
Mm.
He would go home, put the hose into a tailpipe, and
Yeah.
commit suicide
Yeah.
in his parents' garage. And
Uh,
again,
yeah.
a person's never responsible for suicide. That's a person's choice that they make themselves.
Right.
But there's
Right.
always a guilt attached to it. When as a teacher, I had a student commit suicide about 5 years ago. She was
Yeah.
constantly depressed, and we kept her alive in school. But eventually, one moment of weakness, and she overdosed. In her
Th-
suicide letter, she mentioned my name. Thank you,
mm.
Mr. D, for inspiring me. For you continue to keep me alive for 2 years. I'll always love you. So the
Yeah.
mom just shared that with me, and it's very gratifying. But you know what?
Yeah.
I wish I'd done more. But again, it's one of those things where you can only do what you know. And so I didn't know he would kill himself. I didn't know that she
Of
would.
course not. Yeah.
And so, I think it's important to recognize the mental health strains of situations such as combat, divorce, illness, paranormal. At the same time, though, you have to make sure that you don't own things that aren't yours to own.
Exactly. Well said, man. It is unfortunate, but everybody takes things a little bit different, and uh, the workup of the brain when it comes to chemically, with depression and all this other stuff. If you get involved with stuff like this or things that are in the paranormal field, certain people can hit harder, and it seems like that's what kind
Yeah,
of happened there. But
I
and you
worry.
can't feel guilty about it.
Well,
That's for
I
sure. You're
worry,
too young.
because I
Yeah.
worry because as the sci-fi show is about an hour, right? It's Trvl
Yeah.
Channel. This new thing I'm doing is a mini series. It's
Yeah.
3-4 hours, no commercials. So I'm
Yes.
hoping that they respect my request not to talk about this person's family or him. I see
Yeah.
no purpose in raking them through the coals over and over again. However, it's
Right.
not a movie, it's a documentary, so they may just go that way. And I've got to try to press upon them, please. If you do something like that, respect them.
Oh yeah.
Let's see how that goes.
100%.
Let's see how that goes.
Yeah. 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 And when it does come out, you better believe I'll be talking about it
Yeah.
on one of these paranormal shows, and I can't wait to see it because again, it's a streaming service. That's all I'm saying. That
Yeah.
it gives big. Anyways,
There's a
we won't.
great there's a miniseries out right now. It's like top
Yes.
10. It's called Vatican Girl.
Okay. I
Vatican
haven't.
Girl on a certain place, certain streaming network.
Yeah. Yeah.
That style is a
Hmm.
style that this project will be in on some location by some group
Okay.
in that type of format. So if you want to see what
Yeah.
it's going to do with my experience down the road, I'll look
Yeah.
at that particular show to see how they create that um, tension in a documentary as opposed to like a movie based on, like The
Okay.
Conjuring.
Gotcha. Way to skirt around that. I
Thank
love
you.
it. Uh, I haven't seen it, so I'm going to check it out now. That's
Yeah.
for sure. But okay. Anything else? So other than that, I mean, is there anything we missed during that kind of 3-month thing that was like really well? I think we hit kind of the high points of what happened there.
You did. There's like 35 more things, but I
Yeah.
think for the most part,
We'll
people
see it.
understand how this thing was controlling, made it
Yeah.
dangerous, vicious sometimes.
Well, let's get to the end then. I mean, how the heck did this just stop? Like, what happened? Did
Yeah.
just one day everything just stop?
No, I wish that was the case.
Okay.
As I mentioned to you, it took me months to get the courage, and that is the truth, not a
Yeah.
movie, to be able to face this thing, to speak with this thing, and not run and throw things. It was almost a disgust when I saw it. I just impulsively wanted to throw things and attack it. It's a strange reaction I had.
Yeah.
What ended up happening though was that my friend Beth was late to a party we were having. It's college, a party sometimes, and it was her party that she put up. And when we went to her room, we found the door open partway, and we looked in the room, and the room was trashed. Lights were knocked over, desks were flipped, and we saw her feet like she was dead. I'm like, oh my god, maybe her boyfriend beat her up or something. I don't know, right? And
Oh,
so
jeez.
Jeff and I walked in with Ed, and we found her on the floor, like passed out. And so we
Yeah.
hit her face, and just, what happened? She goes, the ghost was here. That really made me angry. A friend of mine, Linda, down
Yeah.
the hall, was held down in her bed. She couldn't move. She's screaming for help. It's on me. It's on me. My friend. It got so violent. And
Yeah.
so I didn't know what to do about all this because people were saying it's my ghost. And then one evening, I think April 12th, I had this horrible, horrible nightmare where all of my friends, one by one, are being killed. And I couldn't do anything about it.
Ugh.
And I woke up like the pain in my chest and all sweaty. It's like
Yeah.
3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. I said, let me take a shower. I don't want to fall back asleep. It might happen again. So I went into the bathroom and I was taking a shower. My friend Craig was in there. Craig was cool. He was raised in a commune. He was
Yeah.
like a hippie dude. He was outside the box thinker. And he just went and take the shower, looked at the shower curtain as they do. What's up? Started talking
Yeah.
about my ghosts and things like that. And he challenged me. He said, listen, people are talking about this thing everywhere. You have to do something, Chris. It's not your ghost because it's focused on you. You can't
Yeah.
hide behind your parents. Your running, your appearance, nothing, your humor. You have to go in and face that thing, see what it wants. I'm like, okay.
Mhm.
And so he said, just go in your room, break the blessing, and talk to it. I'm like, oh, this is the craziest idea ever. I don't want to do that. He said, listen, you have to do it or it's not going to end. I had no answers. My friends are being attacked. The evidence gathering didn't stop anything. The priest blessing didn't stop anything. Nothing.
Yeah.
I'm failing college now. So I said, okay, I'll go in. So I went to get my clothes. No clothes. No clothes, you said. The way God made you. Go in
Yeah.
your birthday suit, no power ties, no cars, no savings bonds. So I walked back in that room, remember my birthday suit, walked across the hall, went in that room. I lit a candle. The priest had 4. I had 1 candle, so I had. I said a prayer. I said, listen, I'm breaking the blessing. I know you can hear me. I know you're always around me. You've been following me for months and months. You want me to help you? I will help you once now. If you don't come here now, I don't give a shit about you. You can rot in hell for all I care. Now, talk now. I hated that thing. It's a horrible thing. And then the candle flickered a bit, and I thought, what am I doing? This is stupid. This is dumb.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an amusement park,
Right.
And you see a roller coaster looks so cool. and then all of a sudden, like, can I get off? Too late. Click, click, click.
Yeah.
And I saw the
You're
sign
gonna
on the
die of
wall.
fright. Oh, God.
I turned my hips to the door because from soccer I learned your hips control your movement, your direction.
Yeah.
And then it was there, right there in front of me, like this far, maybe like 2 feet away.
Mhm.
And I couldn't believe it. It didn't smell. There was no smell of death or any foul smell,
Yeah.
but there it was, just looking at me, looking just grim. The hilted head, and I said, "Why are you here? What's going on?" And he said, "Made a mistake. So much pain." And I wanted to really hate this thing. It was ruining my life, but the eyes of this thing were just truly so sad. I couldn't help but be angry because I felt bad for it. Like, dang, what's wrong with me? I don't want to be human right now. I want to be a war machine. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Damn, I felt bad for it. And
Yeah.
that's why I said, well, where are you from? And well, I asked all these questions about this thing. And then finally I said, if you want my help, here's what I can do for you. I will tell you something. And here's this. Whatever you did wrong can be forgiven. And somewhere, somehow, Someone still loves you. Please, you can't stay here. Find rest. That's what I said. And I said, I'm counting to 10. Like that night you showed up in my room, I'm counting to 10. When I open my eyes, you can't be here. That's it. And then I started counting.
Hmm.
I was petrified because I've been attacked not much before that, It was only like 30 days before, but I got to 10, opened my eyes, and it was gone. And I didn't tell anybody what had happened. I just kept to myself. And then over the next few days, people said, where's the ghost? The ghost has been quiet. The ghost is gone. And I told people then what I had said and done. That's how my involvement with that ghost ended.
And nothing ever in the college or had ever happened.
I've asked. I'm
Yeah.
worried. I asked about that but it wasn't
Yeah.
attached to that college. It was attached to
Right.
me. Whether I
Yeah.
picked it up on a long run by the tree it was killed out, whether the Warrens had called it for somehow, whether just by
And
chance.
again,
It's hard to say.
yeah, and again, the story with that tree was a hanging.
He was tortured. It was called the torture tree, and he had been with the Patriots because the British had lined themselves with Native Americans, and
Yeah.
he was a part of a scouting party. And the Native American scouts said, "Don't go there; it's an ambush." He didn't believe it, and so people got killed. It's his fault. He made a mistake, and he was his eyes
Gotcha.
gouged out. He was hung from a tree. His intestines pulled out. So yeah, I didn't know that because who knows what
Right.
tree that is? But it turns out we found out that the tree he was killed in. I'd run past my cross country practice every day. It's a
Wow.
strange
Okay.
thing, and it's odd that I think the possibility of who this thing was
Hmm.
is as odder, even odder than the actual experience itself. It's just, but I always knew that I had to someday share it because it was just too strange. It was too odd. It was too powerful to keep to myself. But how do you share? And then it wasn't until I realized surviving something is important. Whether it's addiction, depression, unemployment, divorce. I mean, when you survive something, that's the key to moving forward. And so I don't always focus about the ghost identity or proving the ghost's impact on the college, but I
Yeah.
talk about what people feel when they feel as though something's happening with them. If
Mhm.
someone says to you, "Are you in love?" Well, how do you know that? I have a ring on my finger. What does it mean? There's a ring on my finger. I can take
Yeah.
it right off, and guess what? Not my finger anymore. It's a ring. But it's supposed to be more than that. It's supposed to be a promise between people, correct?
Right.
And we make that promise reality or not reality. And so I tell people, if someone likes to hear your voice, like to spend time with you, laugh when you laugh, they probably love you. If they say they love you, enjoy it. Don't ask why. Enjoy the love.
Yeah.
Same thing
Yeah.
with the haunting stuff. If you feel haunted, maybe you are. Just look for signs and try to keep yourself safe. And I think it's a very similar thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Listen, the story is amazing. Just you going in and breaking the blessing. First of all, the two questions I have is I understand. I can't believe that the priest coming in and doing a blessing
Yes.
created all that it created, getting it more angry, more getting it stronger, and
Yes.
the ability to roam around more. Why is that? It's a question I don't think you know or I know.
Well, I've thought about it for a long
Okay.
time. It's been
Okay.
many years, and I
Okay.
will tell you that Father Charles Manning was kind.
Right.
Kind to believe us, kind to read the notes, and very thoughtful to come and see if he can put our minds at ease. And his blessing worked in my room.
Yeah.
That thing respected the boundaries of the blessing, however that happens, whether it's the holy water, the intent, I don't know how those things work. It's not
Mm,
science at all, but it did listen. But I think
yeah.
it began to get angry because, wait a second, in listening to the priest, I'm angry now because now I can't talk to you anymore. And over
Mm,
time, I got more angry and angry because the blessing kept it what it wanted, which is me. So, and I think you're
yeah.
desperate. If it really was from 70 to 79, can you imagine being caught someplace for hundreds of years and finally somebody sees you? An answer for you. You want that answer,
What I'm
and even
saying. Yeah.
even your cat or dog, part of your family, will scratch at you or bite you if they're in pain.
Right.
If they're hurt, and listen, who hurts the most? People hurt you the most. People love you. It's the meanest things because they know what they can say. A stranger says something to you, who cares? Someone just to love you says something hurtful, you feel it. And I think that's probably one of the things we talk about. I think about when I think about the ghost reaction to the blessing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I think him. You breaking that, and then him showing up and
Yeah, right
explaining
away.
himself to you, maybe hopefully allowed him to move on, right?
I hope so.
Hope so. Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to see him again.
Uh, uh, You don't want to see him again.
Won't see
No.
you. Thank you, sir.
No, no. But listen, man, what an unbelievable story. And even though it was just 3 months of your life, it impacted the rest and is continuing to do so uh,
Yes.
for the rest of your life. I mean, listen, stuff like that never uh, leaves the mind, so to
No.
speak. So I would say good luck with all of the entertain. And this is the thing. Listen, it's turning into kind of this entertainment kind of thing. We pick Amityville. We can go to many
No.
real life incidents that have spawned movies, TV series, stuff like that. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. It's just it's such a great story that they want to put it on the screen, tell the
Well, thank
stories in
you.
many different
Yeah,
ways.
I appreciate it. I know
So
Chris Sorrentino of the Horror House. I know Andrea Perrin who had the Annabelle. I know all these people, and they're nice people.
yeah,
What's different for me is that I don't go on TV a lot to act or explore. I
yeah,
just live my life. And I'm glad they're doing a documentary and not a movie based on. This way,
mm,
people can make up their own minds with the evidence there, what they think might have happened. And listen,
right,
everyone's allowed to have their own lens. It's the good thing of being a human being is you can disagree on what you agree on. And when you have a baseball game, it's Yankees versus Red Sox. The score's
yeah,
4-3 Red Sox. You see the same thing. Red Sox fans happy, Yankees fans upset.
mhm,
See the same darn thing. One has a
right.
good experience, one's a bad experience, and that's the way life works, right?
Oh yeah, questions. Listen, if you guys got a questions real quick in the chat, please feel free to. RTN Productions is saying taking questions. Sure, I am. But yeah, it's just one of those things, that's for sure. um Kind of threw me off there a little bit taking the question, but yeah, definitely say good luck to everything in the future there. And the other thing is that there were many witnesses that lends credence to your story too.
Right,
So
right. My
um
father came to visit. He had seen that thing, and there's quite a few. In fact, with this new product that they're creating project,
yeah,
they're
yeah,
going to try to get as many voices as they can to flesh out what had happened because each of us see the world in our own different way, and it makes
yeah.
for a broader understanding of the things. And Trogdor mentions about the shamanism. There's actually a gentleman named Alan Lewis who was the very first person to investigate the haunting outside of us. In other words, went back there and met people and things. He's writing a book right now
Hmm.
about shamanism, and he's actually looking at my experience as one of the bases for his research. So Trogdor is right
Huh.
on as far as I can tell. I'm not a deep thinker. You can probably understand that. I like ice cream,
Yeah.
and but I appreciate people who are great thinkers are
Yeah.
taking the time to look at what may happen because who knows? People have always wanted to understand what lies beyond, right? And it's just
Yep.
fascinating to me. And why not? More power to them.
Oh yeah, and you got to understand that now that it's out there and it's become kind of this, it's becoming this kind of big paranormal story,
Yeah.
and will continue to be so. People are going to dissect it in many different ways through, like you're saying, shamanism, science, investigators, and in many different ways. Authors themselves who are going to research projects, in many different ways. So whether we get answers to what's going on there, who knows? But it seems like you kind of narrowed things down a little bit. Let's hope that's the story. It sounds it. And he moved on, and yeah, yeah. So
I
I
hope
don't
so,
see, I don't see that question, RTN. So I think I'm going to let Chris go. But
May I say one more thing, if you don't mind? May I say one more
sure,
thing?
please do.
If I could share with your audience, listeners and
Yes.
viewers,
Hmm.
if you can, please be kind. When we come into this world, we depend on our parents to survive. We can't see, we can't move, we can't. And people raise us and hopefully give us the ability to like ourselves and to learn, to grow, to count, to read, and to taste food and explore and fall in love and travel. It's a beautiful thing. And somewhere along the way, we start to hate and separate and get angry and annoyed and irritable. And I guess it's part of life. But if you see somebody and you know something good to tell them, tell it to them. Share. Rather than waiting for some psychic to contact your great grandmother, when someone's here now, talk to them. Call them, write them a letter, visit them, do something kind now because it's so much harder once they're gone away. And
Yep. Yep.
I'm sure everybody out there has lost somebody that they
Yep.
miss. I would love to have them back again. So I'd ask, just please, enjoy your life each day. Taste your food, listen to music, dance sometimes like you were a kid, write down your thoughts, and just be close to people who are nice to you, please.
Yes, well said. Listen, this is what this channel is all about, is passing on love, prayer, healing, just the joy of everything we do here. We talk about it on a nightly basis. So kind acts uh, make the world a better place. So yeah, everybody continue to do so. And those are very good words, Chris. Be a good human. We are the only species left that, well, that's another discussion, Trogdor. But anyways, so thanks, Chris. I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me, and good luck with everything in the future. And you're a really awesome guy, and you look just
Okay.
like my uncle. And and
Cool
you
dude.
take it. Yeah, no. Hey, I had to mention it because I'm sitting here going, yeah, I'm talking to my Uncle Mario, man. So
It's me, Mario. Yes.
yeah, Mario, what's going on, man? Anyways, you take care. I'm going to put you off to the
Thank
side
you.
here. You can leave anytime you want. And much love to you, buddy.
Thank you all. Good night.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Okay, so there you guys go. Chris Dicesare. Cesare. I was going to get it wrong there for a second, but I didn't. I stopped myself. But yeah, I didn't get to everybody in the chat. Listen, when you're hearing a story like that, you got to just let the story roll. And I do appreciate everybody being here. I think things went off the rails a couple times, getting into a little deep, dark stuff there. You guys know who I'm talking about there, what I'm talking about. But love and high boy donuts, yes, RTN, yeah, and low girl coffee. So there you go. Maybe I should say God bless us all. But anyways, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. Continue to subscribe and join the channel, if you will. Overnight tonight, there was a request from a Patreon to do a black screen of Johnny Dollars. So tonight there will be black screen all night long of Johnny Dollar to help with the sleep of this person. And so it's been a long time since I've done that. So yes, it's going to be a black screen, but still feel free to chat, listen, and enjoy. And with that said, I think almost 15 minutes early this week. So there you go. We got a lot of other stuff coming up here, but I won't mention that. I will see you guys in the overnight stream tonight, and peace to each and every one of you guys.